Hello everyone. We are continuing on with week 4 of our monthly theme of covenant. I'm going to begin with some opening words. What is it that calls you home, that calls you onward, that calls you inward, that leads you homeward? What is it that gives you the power to make that change, to ask that question, to take that journey? What is it that says you have done well, that asks you to learn more, that brings you to stillness, that holds you up in hard times? It is relationship, the beating heart of our faith. It begins when we share this hour, our truths, our hearts. Come, let us worship together. I'm going to read our chalice lighting now. I am going to light the chalice in front of me. If you have a chalice or a candle at home that you would like to light as well, please join me. To encourage means to hearten, to impart strength and confidence. This is our work as a religious community. To encourage one another, to be bold in engaging the world around us, as well as what scares us internally. To give us one another the confidence and the heart to live as fully as possible. With full hearts, we affirm our relationships with one another. We recognize our agency and our connective power, and we accept our responsibility to be bold and courageous. We light this chalice, symbol of all that we are, all that we have done together, and all that we will be as our shared ministry encourages those within and beyond our walls. Our first reading is called I Choose You, I Am Here, by Emma Merchant. I have never been particularly attached to the idea of family. Do you know the Swiss Family Robinson? It's a story of how a family worked together and survived. It never reached beyond a story for me. It never occurred to me that some people actually felt this way towards their bloodline, that the lineage was sacred. To me, it always seemed that blood could be spilled. I have always felt that when people identify family as something important and universal, what they are truly addressing is unconditional love. This is not to say that I hate the idea of family, but I've always been more enchanted by the idea of chosen family. The thought that we are each making a choice to be here in this family, in this community, is powerful. We have actively chosen to come and be here. I'm not stuck with you because you're my cousin and I'm not allowed to be rude. I could leave if I wanted to, but I don't, because of the way that we have each nurtured this community. I choose to be stuck with you, for better or worse. And we have continuously made this choice over and over again. Every time we attend worship, every time we donate our time and energy, every time we clasp hands in meditation is a promise. I am here for you. The DNA of this community may be metaphorical, but it exists within me. The words covenant and right relation are second nature, placed on my tongue almost since birth. But they are words that I have chosen to bring into my life. My heart beats with the blood of this church, pounding out, I choose you, I am here. This is a safe space, a place of learning, a place of compassion, a space created by the very idea of love. We choose to build a sanctuary because we choose to be together. There is no use for a church of people who hate each other or a church of ghosts. We make the choice to stay stuck together, even when we don't want to be in the same room. But we always come back to the table because we choose to be together. Through thick and thin, we have chosen love. And in hard times, struggling times, times that we face every day, we come together even closer. We make the choice to listen to each other. We make the choice to pick each other up. And we make the choice to love each other. We have built this community with our commitment to that love. Our second reading is The Vision of Covenant by Reverend Gretchen Haley. Covenant is one of those words that can initially sound kind of stuffy, academic, and out of date. But when you unpack its meaning and practices, covenant holds a whole vision for how to live in this complicated, beautiful, and broken world. It is a vision that says we are most human when we bind ourselves in relationship, but not just any relationship. Relationships of trust, mutual accountability, and continual return. This is not what our culture teaches us. Our culture teaches us that what it means to be human is to be individual, self-defined, self-determined, separate even. But our UU covenantal theology affirms that being human comes down to the commitments we make to and with each other, the relationships we keep. We become human through our promises to and with each other. And even more than that, covenantal theology doesn't just say that we become human through our promising, but also when we break those promises, and yet somehow find ways to reconnect and begin again. When we repair the relationship because we know we need each other, even when we think the other isn't doing enough, even when the other is annoying us, or isn't listening well, or isn't doing the things the way we want them done, even then. When we realize right then that we are still connected and we can't give up, and so we return and begin again. This beginning again, says our faith, is when the holy and human meet. We all have many different reasons for being here, but I like to think that we all have one common reason for being here: love. Over everything else, we are here because we are the people who choose love. We do not have a bloodline, but we have a deep, unconditional love that runs through us all. We choose that love. We choose each other. Our hearts echo, I choose you. I am here. I am here. I am here. Today's sermon is called Places in the Heart by Reverend Kirk Logan Copeland. M. Scott Peck's book, The Road Less Traveled, was published in 1978, but did not become a bestseller until 1983, when it made the New York Times bestseller list. It remained a bestseller for more than 13 years, and eventually sold 10 million copies. Time magazine suggested that the book was most often bought to give to irritating friends as a gift. Peck believed that 2/3 of the copies purchased went unread. Still, the book was wildly influential and launched the genre of self-help books. The first sentence of the book is reminiscent of the Buddha's first noble truth. Peck wrote, "Life is difficult." He suggested that this truth was all the more disconcerting because we are prone to believe that life should be easy. He counseled discipline as the solution, writing, "With total discipline, we can solve all problems." Even then, Peck was overreaching. But in the past 35 years, life has become far more difficult. Discipline, while significant, is not sufficient. Self-discipline cannot erase poverty, end unemployment, cure an illness, end racism, slow climate change, or address all the other challenges that the world faces today. His suggestion that the whole course of human history may depend on a change of heart in one individual romanticizes the role of the individual. In The Different Drum, a later book about community and peacemaking, Peck wrote, "In and through community lies the salvation of the world." It is no accident that most newcomers to Unitarian Universalist congregations come seeking community. They come seeking what Ray Oldenburg calls a great good place that functions as a third place in their lives beyond the first place of home and the second place of work. These great good places are essential if the larger community is to thrive. Churches can be such places if they embrace community as a value that transcends the sectarianism of dogma and creed by welcoming freedom of belief and diversity, by offering a community for connection, renewal, and transformation. Community can only emerge in deep and authentic ways if love is placed at the center of all that is done. The fact that love is the spirit of our congregations aligns with M. Scott Peck's definition of love. He wrote, "Love is not a feeling. Love is an action, an activity. Genuine love implies commitment and the exercise of wisdom. Love as the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's individual growth." Each of us is called to embrace love as a communal spiritual practice. In this, we are attempting to bring into being the beloved community, which is so beautifully depicted in the 1984 film Places in the Heart, starring Sally Fields as Edna and Danny Glover as Mose. The film is set in Waxahachie, Texas, in the 1930s. It shows the struggle Edna faces after her husband, the town sheriff, is accidentally killed by a drunken black teenager. The teenager is lynched by the Ku Klux Klan, which horrifies Edna and adds to her grief. With her husband dead, she struggles to keep the family farm. Edna is helped by Mose, a black itinerant farmer. The town and the Klan are outraged by the fact that she allows a black man to help her run her farm. The closing scene is a fantasy in which all of the people in the film are seated in church where they are taking communion. You see friends and enemies, wives and mistresses, living and dead, black and white, seated side by side. Edna's husband sits beside the black teenager who killed him. It is an image in which the lambs and the wolves, the wronged and the wrongdoers, the betrayers and the betrayed, are all gathered together as one. It is a powerful statement about what the world would be like if we were all committed to creating the beloved community. Central to beloved community is covenant, the promises that we make with each other and the world about how we will be with each other. A covenant is dynamic, inviting those who share in it to new possibilities by taking risks that seek to expand and deepen the beloved community. Preston Moore, a Unitarian Universalist minister, concludes that the measure of this open-heartedness is the magnitude of the risks accepted, the surprises welcomed, the successes achieved, and the failures endured. No one intends to fail or let another person down, but sometimes, despite our best efforts, that is precisely what happens. If the covenant cannot endure failure, then we must question its power, as well as our commitment to it. Covenant, rightly understood and rightly lived, takes into account human imperfection and failing, as well as generosity of spirit and our capacity for goodness. Living in covenant is not easy, for we must ask, what does love require? I would suggest that the doctrine of love requires intention and skill, discipline and risk, trust and forgiveness, connection and care, listening and more listening, humility and the presumption of goodwill, compassion and sympathy, valuing diversity and practicing radical hospitality, honesty while speaking the truth in love, as well as the work of justice and spiritual maturity. It requires that we share our stories so that we can enter into the depth of each other's lives and see each other, not with the hard eyes of judgment, but with the soft eyes of respect. Living in covenant is not easy, but it has the power to transform. We must be willing to practice 70 times 7, to fail 70 times 7, to forgive 70 times 7. Eventually we will learn how to do it, and as more and more of us live in covenant, we will be transformed and transforming. Living in covenant creates beloved community as the size of our heart expands individually and communally to truly welcome all who come through the doors. I am now going to extinguish the chalice in front of me. If you also have a flame in front of you, you can blow that out as well. We extinguish the chalice here, that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light your path as you leave this place. May it guide your way until we are together again. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.